I am much more inclined now than I was when I made Close Encounters to really believe that we're not the only intelligent civilization in the universe.
Hi, and welcome to Terry Talks Movies, and welcome to Science Fiction Saturday again, and welcome to Disclosure Day. Yes, I have seen Steven Spielberg's $115 million Vanity project, and I have some thoughts about it, surprisingly enough. So buckle in, there are going to be minor spoilers, but there's nothing in this movie that you need to be worried about as far as spoilers are concerned, because none of it matters. So the movie was written by David Koepp, who had a lot of track record. He wrote the script for Jurassic Park, amongst other things. But it was based on a whole bunch of scribblings by Steven Spielberg when the revelations about UFOs and stuff came out from the Trump government. So, Spielberg started scribbling down 50 pages of notes about this stuff and decided to make a movie about it. No one's going to say no to him. He's a billionaire. Billionaires very rarely hear the word no. And so he made this movie. Now, the cast, I will admit, is good. We have Emily Blunt playing Margaret, a television weather woman in a Kansas City TV channel. We have Josh O'Connor playing Daniel, who worked for the mysterious organization that controls all of the alien technology and has a whole bunch of aliens stored there, a place called Wardex. Colin Firth plays Noah Scanlon, who's the boss of Wardex. Eve Hewson plays Daniel's girlfriend, Jane, who used to be a nun. You got to bring in a little bit of religion. Coleman Domingo plays Hugo, who's a whistleblower who is arranging for Disclosure Day to happen. And Wyatt Russell plays Jackson, the boyfriend of Margaret, the character played by Emily Blunt. Margaret and Daniel were touched by aliens when they were kids. Not too much of a revelation. And Daniel has grabbed a whole bunch of data, the visual history of Wardex and its interactions with aliens from 1947 when they were discovered around Roswell, New Mexico. A couple of things. There is a moment, which is in the trailer, where Daniel is walking around a field and crop circles start appearing around him. There's actually two things I want to mention. First off, the Roswell thing was a hoax. It's been known to be a hoax for the last 60-odd years. Secondly, crop circles are a hoax because a couple of guys with planks and ropes created them in the UK about 30 years ago, and people thought they were aliens, but what they were a couple of rural guys having a joke. But Spielberg is taking it seriously. Spielberg is going, hey, look, this is aliens. Yeah, okay, whatever. Now, before I shit on Spielberg from a great height, I like a lot of his stuff. I like his early stuff. I think Jaws is a masterpiece. I like his early TV work. If you can find that, it's a lot of fun. There's an episode called Eyes in Night Gallery, which is one of his first gigs when he's a teenager. And he does some really visually inventive things in that. There's an episode of the Name of the Game TV series called Los Angeles 2017, which is good science fiction. It really lands as science fiction. It is, I'd argue, top 10 best Spielberg works. But he kind of lost me when he dropped into sloppy sentimentality and blatant insulting attempts at emotional manipulation, which happened with things like E.T. and Close Encounters of the Third Kind. That emotional hand job that Spielberg gives an audience, I find a little too blatant, a little too obvious, a little too saccharine. It doesn't have the emotional depth it thinks it has. So, Disclosure Day is a vanity project by Steven Spielberg. Give credit where it's due. Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis at least looked visually interesting and was wild and crazy and offbeat and had some really goofy casting in it. Disclosure Day has none of that. So, props to Francis Ford Coppola, who put his own money on the line and made a goofy, weird, interesting movie. Now, the acting in the movie is good. I'll give it that much. Emily Blunt is good. Emily Blunt's good. Josh O'Connor is good. Coleman Domingo playing Hugo is good. Wyatt Russell, who is slowly lifting his game every time I see him on the screen. His acting is improving every time I see him. Colin Firth, I've got this thing at the moment where received pronunciation, the kind of posh theatrical accent that a lot of English actors were forced to adopt in the last 60, 70 years. doesn't sound right for a human character these days, because it sounds like he's playing Richard III. Now is the summer of our discontent. It doesn't sound like a real English accent. It doesn't sound like an accent that somebody living in any specific part of England, where the accents change all the time. It doesn't have regionality to it. It doesn't have that human factor that a real person has. As soon as you hear a received pronunciation accent, you know it's somebody being an actor. It doesn't sound like somebody you might meet on the high street. And I find that increasingly fucked up. So the movie stars 3 English actors, an Irish one, and 2 Americans. I mean, there are a lot of car chases, and the car chases are good, but they're only as good as a lot of other movies as well. We've seen a lot of this stuff before. There's a bit at a level crossing where the cars and the trains cross, which has a bit of tension to it and works well. And the action sequence that results in that level crossing incident goes on just a bit too long. And there's also a very weird action scene where the farm that Daniel and his girlfriend Jane are hiding on is surrounded by Wardex security. They've got all of these armed guys with the headphones and the guns and the bulletproof vests and the helmets and all that kind of thing. There's about 50 of them. Daniel creeps up behind them about 5 meters away from all their cars, and none of them looks backward. I mean, I would have thought that if you're surveilling something and you're going to go in and retrieve people, you're going to do a 360 now and then to just see if there's nothing coming up behind you. Doesn't happen. He makes loud crunching noises as he creeps up behind them behind a very kind of skinny fence, and none of them notice him. It's one of the worst bits of action I've seen in a movie. It is clumsy, it is stupid, and the bad guys basically act stupid for plot reasons, not because of anything innate to them. That's very poorly done. And Josh O'Connor's character is stumbling and fumbling around, and yet nobody hears him and nobody sees him. We do eventually, and this is in the trailer, we get to see when the aliens first encountered Margaret and Daniel when they were 10-year-old kids. And they appear as woodland animals. There's a deer, there's a raccoon, there's a cardinal bird. And just before that, Margaret, as a little girl, is singing a Disney song in her bed. And so the aliens appear as woodland animals in order to not scare the kids. The thing that this reminded me of is Osamu Tezuka's amazing 3 anime from the 1960s, where 3 aliens turn into barnyard animals while they're on Earth analysing the planet. Basically, Spielberg has chucked in a little bit to Tezuka here by getting the aliens to appear as woodland animals. And then the aliens strap the kids down, put weird apparatuses around their head, and hold the kids' heads still with their spindly fingers. Yeah, we don't want to scare the kids, so we're going to appear as woodland animals. But once we've got them, we're going to strap them down and put things on their heads. If there is ever a first contact with aliens, apart from Putin, Trump, Musk, and Netanyahu, Steven Spielberg's the last person I would let anywhere near a first contact situation. He'll let the aliens do anything to anybody. He let them ruin the life of Roy Neary in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, because they're aliens and they're magical and they're superior beings. No, that guy's so scary. I would not let him anywhere near a first contact. And that aliens appearing as animals thing, it's this a weird American thing where aliens can't appear as aliens. In Contact, they appeared as the father of the character played by Jodie Foster, because they can't appear as aliens. They've got to appear as something familiar and comforting. Basically, in this movie, with the barnyard animals and things, we've got to admit the fact that Steven Spielberg's a Disney adult, probably goes to Disneyland and gets it to himself because he's a billionaire, and wears the ears and has a sippy cup and just grokks the aesthetic of the Disney franchises. The other creepy thing about this, which directly relates to the real world in some ways, is Vortex's paramilitary mercenaries just run around doing whatever they like ICE, except there's no protest and there's nobody warning them about things. They just parade around in great convoys of black Dodge cars and do whatever they like. Nobody's going to stop them. Paramilitary maneuvers have been normalized in the United States of America. Eventually, of course, and this is no secret because this is the whole thing, it's called Disclosure Day. The information is got out to the world of the aliens. All of the video files, all of the information gets released to the world via the TV station where Margaret works. In an age of weaponized disinformation and stochastic terrorism, the ending of this movie is ludicrous. I mean, other people and other reviewers have said it's hopeful and optimistic and compassionate. But for me, it was ludicrous. To even suggest that most people are getting their news from old school linear television networks and streaming services is incredibly naive. Most people these days, and particularly younger people, are getting it from TikTok, they're getting it from YouTube, they're getting it from Instagram. And none of that shit appears when the information is released. Spielberg seems to think that everybody is sitting in front of their Dumont, changing channels with an old-fashioned clicker and watching TV that way and getting their information and their news that way. It's out of touch. It's like saying that they get the information by listening to Bakelite valve radios and newspapers delivered by teenage boys on bicycles. The world doesn't work like that anymore. And also, all of this alien information comes out. 60-70% of the people aren't going to believe it. They're not going to buy the story because they've been programmed to disbelieve news. The movie doesn't in any way address that, apart from a mention where one of the people in the TV control booth runs a scan over the footage to make sure it's not AI. And the villain, Scanlon, played by Colin Firth, gets a free pass at the end of the movie. This is the guy that almost, who basically took control of a person in order to kill another person with a kitchen knife and did any other number of egregious crimes against a number of people. And yet he gets a free pass at the end of the movie. Not cool one tiny bit. And here's the worst part of it. This is the kicker. This is the bit that is an enormous letdown. It's the soft off at the end of the foreplay. Disclosure Day is a shaggy dog story. It ends with, that's what it ends with. Spielberg doesn't commit to the bit. He doesn't show us the results of all of this kerfuffle that precedes things. He didn't know how to end this movie. And so he doesn't. He just goes, okay. And that's it. The information's been put out. There's a little bit of a thing at the end that I'm not going to describe to you. And then there's a hard cut where the movie should have started. This is further evidence that billionaires are the biggest problem in the world. Spielberg's a billionaire. He spent $115 million of Universal's money to make this movie because he's Steven Spielberg and he wanted to make an alien movie. And they thought that they can make money on it. It's just the same old fucking song from Spielberg. It's a thematic trilogy with Close Encounters of the Third Kind and E.T. Movies I did not like in one tiny bit. And this one doesn't add anything. It doesn't add anything to science fiction movies. It doesn't add anything to movies about aliens. We've seen everything in this movie before. It just doesn't land. And yes, it's got that soft, cuddly, saccharine Spielberg touch to it, which a lot of people seem to be programmed to respect and enjoy. But for me, it was uninteresting. Yeah, the acting's good. And yes, there are a couple of moments that work. But for the most part, it's meh. The John Williams soundtrack to the movie is not his best work. He is in his 90s now. So I totally understand that. And Spielberg kind of pressured him to do a soundtrack this movie because that would add to the cachet of the movie, of course. There's nothing memorable in that soundtrack, and that's a great pity. Got a lot of respect for John Williams as a creative composer. Really like his stuff he did for Lost in Space and Land of the Giants. But it just doesn't work, and it's not a good note for him to end his career on. So just to summarize, Disclosure Day, a lot of people are going to see it. A lot of people are going to enjoy it, but it is incredibly and deeply ordinary. It is a vanity project by a billionaire who's going to get away with it. See it if you want to. I'd suggest if you want to see it on streaming or see it in physical media if you're so inclined. Go in with your expectations low. It's not going to be the Spielberg you remember when you saw Close Encounters when you were a little kid, or when you saw E.T. when you were a little kid. It's not going to be that. It's going to be something you've seen before a number of times. And it's coming from the guy who directed Ready Player One and a fairly ordinary remake of West Side Story. So that's what I got for you this time around. Yes, I am shitposting about this movie, but I don't think it deserves your respect and your regard. But again, that is just my opinion. If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, leave a comment and let me know what you think. You can also hit the notification bell so you know when I'm doing new videos. If you want to support the channel, you can become a channel member on YouTube or become a patron at patreon.com/TerryTalksMovies. And if you do that, you do get the monthly Spotify music playlist, and you also get access to the Discord server where I'm posting some really good links to movies that are on YouTube. I don't know how long they're going to be on YouTube, but there are some really interesting movies that I've found. And every time I do, I post a link on the Discord server for people to watch them. Next up, we've got the Monday video. Not sure what I'm doing, but I'm going to do something. So until then, watch some good movies and watch some bad movies. Some of you are going to watch Disclosure Day, but please go in with your expectations adjusted. And I'll catch you next time.